When a brand you love calls you up and says, hey, you want to check out our new speaker? Of course, you say yes. But what do you do when their new speaker is as good as one of their more expensive speakers, but at half the price? Q Acoustics' brand new two-way tower speaker, the 5040, is eerily similar in both size and specs to one of our reference speakers, the Concept 50, also from Q Acoustics. The 5040 has two 5-inch bass drivers with its brand new continuous curve cone design. The new design is said to ensure smoother integration with the tweeter while improving dynamics. And speaking of the tweeter, the speaker gets a fully hermetically sealed and isolated soft dome tweeter, a design that is borrowed from the costlier Concept series. Keeping with tradition, the tweeter rests between two woofers in an MTM type layout. And so the drivers, rear-facing port, point-to-point cabinet construction, and internal Helmholtz pressure equalizer combine for a reported frequency response of 39 Hz to 30 kHz. Despite an impedance rating of 6 ohms that dip as low as 3, the 5040 proved it can play nice with a wide range of electronics thanks to its 91.5 dB sensitivity. We tested these with 4 different amplifiers, the Crown XLS Drivecore 2, Audiolab's 8300 XP, and their 7000A, as well as the more budget-friendly Aurilic B50. Minus the new Aurilic, all of the amps were able to drive the 5040 to peaks in excess of 100 dB without strain. Now about the Aurilic, the B50's 30 watts worked just so long as you didn't want to go past 85 dB. In our 480 square foot room, 85 dB is plenty loud for me, and for the most part, the Aurilic remained musical and free from audible distortion when at or below this level, but it does potentially call into question Aurilic's power claims, because the B50 should have produced higher volumes even in our room. If your amp has 50 watts or more of total power and can comfortably handle 4 ohm loads, the 5040 seems to be pretty amplifier agnostic. My personal favorite pairings were the Audiolab 7000A as well as the Crown XLS Drivecore with my mini DSP SHD acting as a DAC preamp. The 5040s are slightly shorter and about 10 pounds lighter than the Concept 50s, something you may not even notice unless you have them side by side. The 5040s feel every bit as stout and well built. They come in 4 finishes: satin black, satin white, Santos rosewood, and Holm oak, which is what we have here for review. I really like the change to a more satin finish here, and I hope this is a trend we'll see more of in the future. Around back, there is a single set of recessed binding posts, which is one of the ways the 5040 differ from the bi-wire and bi-amp capable Concept speakers. The feed design is another departure, and one that I actually prefer. The bass design is far more simple, not to mention less wobbly than the 50s. Getting the 5040s set up, it wasn't too difficult. They actually sounded pretty good, surprise, placed in the exact same location as the Concept 50s. I'm talking 30 inches off our front wall, 9 feet apart, and 12 feet from our listening position. Now, some slight toe-in did help to lock in the center image with laser-like precision, but you do it to taste. In this position, I ran a sweep from 20 to 20 and found the 5040s to be pretty neutral from about 40 Hz on up. I actually found little to no difference in the 5040's response when compared to the costlier 50s, minus the Concept's slight roll-off in the treble, which could be explained by minor variance in toe-in between the two speakers. At half the price, the 5040s more than hold their own against their bigger brother. And the similarities in sound quality don't stop at their in-room measurements. The 5040 isn't just reminiscent of the Concept 50, it's its equal. The two areas where these speakers appear to differ most is in their treble and soundstage transparency, but that's about it. So while the 5040 is full range enough for most music, if you listen to a lot of electronica, metal, or you want to use these as part of a Dolby Atmos home theater, a subwoofer is 100% required. Without a sub, the 5040's low end was nuanced and agile, never boomy or overpowering, which would spoil the speaker's otherwise very neutral mid-range. I used KLIPSCH's new Reference Premier 1000 subwoofer, which was a nice sonic pairing. However, a more minimalist subwoofer would be a better match visually because that 1000 is a beast. The mid-range is definitely this speaker's strong suit, possessing near textbook neutrality with no audible cabinet resonance to color the natural timbre of instruments or performers. In other words, no chestiness or boxiness here. Instruments and artists sound as they should with good scale, though the presence of a sub can help with just that last ounce of grounding and dimension. As you might expect, intelligibility, it's high with the 5040s, making it great for stereo home theater listening. Speaking of highs, they sound less subdued than the Concept 50s, giving you just a touch more sonic contrast, something those of you who complained about the 50s' more mild manners will no doubt welcome. It's not a night and day difference, but there is a difference. Even with a little less roll-off, the 5040's top end is still very refined and smooth enough that it avoids shining light on plosives or sibilants, something I was able to test while listening to tracks from Fiona Apple and Alanis Morissette. The 5040's top-end energy also pays dividends dynamically, providing just more snap to crescendos. Cymbal hits crash just a little bit harder here than they do with the Concept 50s. But the 50s have a more open and transparent soundstage. Now, both speakers, they excel at separation and detail between the speakers, and both have terrific center imaging. The costlier 50 does a noticeably better job just disappearing in three-dimensional space. I could totally live with the 5040s, and I actually found them to be a little bit more engaging when listening to music from the likes of Tool, but if you're one who wants to sort of just bask in the stage of a good ensemble or symphony, the Concept 50, or better yet, its bigger brother, the 500, are the speakers you should be looking at. If you jump to this section because you're looking for a detailed Concept 50 comparison, you need to rewind to the chapter marked sound quality for that because it's already all there. For everyone else, if you already own the 50s, keep them. You have the quote better speaker, all things considered. But if you're on a tighter budget or you're just tired of waiting for the 50 stock to return, I say try the 5040s first. Because if you find them enjoyable, know that spending more for the Concept 50s will only result in marginal gains. So, my advice, save your money, put it into other parts of your system, or better yet, put it in a retirement plan. Now, compared to the KLIPSCH 8000F Mark IIs, the 5040s are the more linear and refined speaker, but they are absolutely overshadowed by the larger KLIPSCH in the bass, dynamics, and scale departments. The 8000F Mark IIs aren't a party speaker. Let's just put that cliche to bed, but they have a live-like presence that the Q simply cannot match. So if you're one who likes to feel like you're at the show, go with the KLIPSCH. But if you want to dissect your favorite recordings, the 5040s would be a better fit. Looking at KLH's Model 3s, yes, I am skipping over the Model 5s because that is a three-way speaker that will cost you more than the more comparable Model 3. Now, the Model 3 has a livelier sound, one that has a little bit more top-end energy with a mostly linear mid-range. Now, bass through the Model 3 is going to be punchier when paired with a powerful enough amplifier, but not necessarily deeper. The KLH's lack of a port makes it potentially more room-friendly, but for me and my money, I'd actually park it with the 5040 because overall, and across just the widest range of music, I just think they're the better fit. And because you're going to ask, as for my kinder to the pocketbook reference tower speaker, the POLK R700, this is not an apples-to-apples comparison. The R700 is a true three-way speaker that plays deeper than the 5040 could ever dream of. The R700 is more expensive, so it should do things that the 5040 can't. But like the Q, it crushes when it comes to absolute performance and value for money. I would rather have the R700s, all things considered, but if I already owned a sub and was looking for a high-performance neutral speaker, the 5040 would be on my short list. I gotta say, the speed at which certain products are getting better and more affordable is just astounding. Last August, Q ACOUSTICS Concept 50 was one of our desert island speakers, arguably one of KRISTI'S all-time favorites, and yet here we are, less than a year later, with another speaker from the same brand that is almost indistinguishable sonically from its big brother. The 5040 is cheaper, offered in nicer finishes, at least to me, and proves once again that just like the R700, that it is possible to achieve long-term audiophile happiness without crossing into high-price territory. All right, so that's it for me, but before we go, what'd you think of them?
Well, I'm sure you guys are all on the edge of your seat.
I am, actually.
Waiting to know which one of...
You have not said a word about these speakers the entire time we've had them.
Well, I know. I've kind of kept it a little bit close to the chest or whatever that phrase is. I mean, listen, you guys know that I absolutely love the Concept 50s. They are still today one of my all-time favorite speakers. That has not changed.
Okay.
Now with the 5040s,
yes,
I really enjoyed these, and I absolutely love the new finish options. There's also something kind of different to me about the look of the front around the drivers that feels a little bit more sophisticated.
It does. It's a new color, a little bit newer colorway.
So I really like just the visual aesthetics of this particular line. I really hope that maybe when they come out with this Concept 50 Mark II or something, that will carry over.
Yeah.
I think that Q Acoustics did an absolutely fantastic job at bringing the 5040s to market at $1,500 a pair.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, how do you even do that?
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, the way that the industry is continuing to advance their designs and like, not just visually, but sonically.
Yeah.
But also bringing stuff out at a lower price point. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I still prefer the sound of the 50s.
Okay.
There's just something extra about them for me.
Okay.
And that these don't quite match, but it's very close.
It's very close. And what areas do you think don't quite match?
Well, I still think that the 50s are setting a standard, at least for me, when it comes to intelligibility, specifically when it comes to understanding actor dialogue.
Okay.
The 50s are absolutely better than the 5040s in that regard. Again, that's for me.
Yeah, for you.
I also preferred the soundstage of the 50s.
The 50s do have a bigger and better soundstage.
So I just think spatially, just across the board,
Yep.
they're the better speaker.
They are.
It's just that has not changed for me. I really feel like the Concept 50s are the sweet spot in the Q Acoustic entire line. I mean, I would go with the 50s way before I would ever spend money on the 500s.
I would agree with you on that. And I would go with the 50s before spending money on the 300s.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. But I can totally understand why somebody would go with the 5040s because they're very similar. I love their size. Their finish options are great. And they're a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But again, for me, I would save my money and get the 50s.
You would save up your money and get the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's a marginal improvement, but it's still...
It is audible.
It's audible, and it's something that I really like. So that's kind of where I'm at with between those two.
Okay. I'm not surprised. I think, honestly, the biggest difference between the two is the soundstage. And that's where that extra 10 pounds of... It shouldn't sound this way, but stick with me. That's where the extra 10 pounds of the cabinetry of the Concept 50s is really paying off. That gelatin kind of sandwich construction that they do with the Concept 50s, the extra bracing, sound dampening, and just vibration control that's in the Concept 50s, you hear that in the soundstage. That's why that speaker is more dimensional, both width and depth, whereas the soundstage of the 5040s is very good, but it does collapse it just a little bit and kind of keeps it more forward. But for those people that were like, I went and demoed the Concept 50 and you might want to look at the 5040s because that kind of half step forward that the entire soundstage and speaker takes over the Concept 50s, plus that just a little bit less roll off in the tweeter, might be exactly what you're looking for. Now, one of the things that you just said that kind of surprises me is the intelligibility. I'm not saying that you're wrong at all. You heard what you heard. But for me, I found the presence of vocals, especially female vocals, to be more forward with the 5040s, which improved their intelligibility and presence as opposed to the Concept 50. I found the Concept 50s to be very intelligible, very articulate, and all of that. But artists sat just a little bit back in the mix compared to the 5040.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't care.
You still find the 50s to be...
I cannot dissect things in the way that you do. I'm just going off of what I feel like I'm hearing.
Okay.
And I find the 50s just to be a little bit more clear for me.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right.
I want to talk about comparisons.
Of course you do. because I left something off.
You did, but it's fine. Now, first, before we get into the ones you left off, out of the comparisons you mentioned, for me, the only speaker I would consider over these are the KLIPSCH 8000F Mark IIs. They are incredibly fun. They have great intelligibility.
Yep.
I just wish they didn't look the way they did. Getting to the ones you left off.
Okay.
I have a feeling people are going to want to know about KEF. In as far as what's comparable, I think the Q750, which we did review,
Yes.
are the most comparable out of the KEF line.
I would agree.
Just as a refresher, they're $1,800 a pair, so it's going to be in between the cost of the Qs and the POLK R700s. They're rated at 48 to 28 kilohertz, 88 dBs into 8 ohms.
Okay.
Your thoughts? I would go with the Q Acoustics.
Yeah, I mean, finish option wise, they actually, I think, offer pretty much the same finishes. So visually, you can pull off the look that you want. The KEFs are a bigger speaker. If I'm not mistaken, they are a 3-way speaker?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
They might be a 2.5 way.
I think they're 2-way.
Okay, anyway. They're going to be a little bit easier to drive, but they still really do like a competent amplifier. So my amplifier recommendations for the Q 5040 would apply to the KEF as well. I would probably pick the 5040, to be honest, because believe it or not, the 5040s are just a little bit more open, a little bit livelier than the KEFs. The KEF brand is just pretty exacting, and that can be fun sometimes, and other times it can not be what you're after. We have a KEF review coming up, and I have a feeling what I just said is going to come back and haunt me.
It is.
But anyway, the 750 is a great speaker, totally worth buying. But I think the 5040 manages to be as good for $400 less money. So I would give it a look if you hadn't made your purchasing decision yet.
I totally agree. Okay. Triangle. You know the Triangle bros.
The Bro 9s.
The bros are going to come out and be like, well, what about the 9s?
I like the Q Acoustics. I like the Q Acoustics better. I do.
Those are just FYI, those are $1,400 a pair. So they're equivalent to the Q Acoustics roughly. They're 35 hertz to 22 kilohertz, 92 dB efficient at 8 ohms.
Yeah. They're going to be way easier to drive. That's for darn sure.
They do have nice finish options.
They have great finish. I mean, Triangle, man. KLIPSCH, if you're listening, just buy Triangle and then just take all their finishes. Yeah. The Triangle speakers are going to be easier to drive, so they'll probably be a little bit more lively at lower levels, things like that. They often are cheaper than even their suggested retail price because they're like perpetually on some sale. They're not as accurate as the 5040s, not by a long shot. They are a much more lively speaker, and in many ways, they are more reminiscent of the KLIPSCH reference, not reference premier, reference, in that certain frequencies excite that cabinet, okay? And so there is some resonances, some coloration that can be fun and lively, but is not necessarily accurate or perfect to the source.
Oh, boy. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I would take the Triangles over the reference line, the towers.
Oh I'm not saying that the reference line from KLIPSCH is better than Triangle. I'm not. I'm just saying that the reference line had some of that boxy coloration, and the Triangles are better.
Way better.
Are better, but it's still there. It is possible. Like those Bro 9s. Low got a little chesty. You heard. You will play the tape back, guys. Watch this review, then go back to the Bro 9 review.
The 800Fs were unlistenable. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying that the Bro 9s are as bad.
Ignore Andrew.
As the 800Fs. But I am saying the Q Acoustic 5040 is better than the lot. So there you go.
I agree. I agree with you.
This one's getting fiery, guys.
Okay.
All right, what else?
Last one.
Okay.
Last
good.
one. Yeah. Okay. The Focal Chora 826, which are their towers.
Yeah.
They are currently,
they're borderline free.
They're $1,400 a pair.
Jeez.
I didn't even bother to look up their specs.
It doesn't matter. The Chora line, 826 specifically, is going to be a livelier, slightly more forward, and brighter speaker than the Q Acoustics. It's going to be more dynamically interesting. It's going to be better at lower volumes, but it's going to have a little bit of that V-shaped curve to its response. A little bit of boost in the bass. It will play lower, and it is going to have that accentuated treble. It will demolish the Q Acoustics in the soundstage department. The Choras have a Concept 50 like soundstage where it's just big, open, and the speakers completely disappear inside it. And Focal is still in possession of arguably one of the best center images you can ask for from a speaker, and the Chora line is no different. So if that's your bag, 826 all day, baby. And you're getting a hell of a speaker at its current closeout sale, liquidation price, whatever it is.
The Choras are in a serious need of an update, which I guess likely getting. But that front, the glossiness on the front,
well, it's a combination. It's like there's a matte, but then there's glossiness around the drivers, and then you've got the wood looking wrap in the back, but then you've got the plastic base that's kind of weird. There's just a lot going on with the Chora, but it's still just
it's a very good speaker.
It sounds so good.
Yeah,
it sounds good.
Anyway, that's it.
That's it? All right, guys, that's now our take on Q Acoustics' brand new 5040 tower speaker. What did you guys think? Who's right? Me or Kristi?
Obviously.
It's me. I know. I know. Guys, you needed to pause a little bit before agreeing with me. I don't want to make Kristi feel bad, okay? So anyway, I'm right. She's wrong. The 5040s are great. This video's over. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out.
I expect my fans to turn out in high numbers in the comments. Please like the video too.
Yeah.
This watching and not liking can be a problem.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see what the fan turnout is. If you use any of the links that Kristi has left for you down below, know that is a great way that you've continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us, thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that's it. That's it for us today. So remember, at the end of the day, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video.